so we're going to kick this off here with our alumni interview with you. Do you prefer Shaq, or how would you like me to address you? Shaq? All right. Awesome. So just to kind of get it started, tell me what campus you graduated from and when did you graduate?
I graduated from the Lacey campus and I graduated in 2023.
Okay. So 2 years ago, basically.
Yes.
And did you jumpstart right into a career in HVAC?
So I didn't. I looked for a whole bunch of different positions where I was at, but I had to make a move right after I graduated. I had to move from the Lacey Olympia area down to Walla Walla. So Walla, much smaller town, fewer opportunities for those. So I ended up in a general maintenance position instead for a foundry down here, a fine arts foundry.
Oh, so, neat.
Yeah. So I was able to get stuff that I learned there. I was more just air filters and stuff like that. Not as much of my schooling went into it. But yep. So I wasn't able to jump right in, but about a year after the move.
Okay. And yeah, Walla Walla is by far smaller than Lacey, Tacoma, Olympia. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then, and I'm in Pasco, Washington, so I'm closer to the Walla Walla area.
Oh,
so,
right down the road.
Yeah, right down the road. So, I know Pioneer Park and, the eateries and, all of that. So I'm very familiar. Yeah. So how are you liking Walla Walla, with going from a bigger more to do per se to that smaller area?
It's funny. I prefer it. So I moved into Walla Walla back in 2012, and I started my family down here shortly after. And then we moved to Olympia because my significant other, she wanted to see my neck of the woods. So while we were over there, that's when I decided to go ahead and make that decision to start back up in school again, because she had finished all of her schooling at that time. So it was my time. Yeah.
Okay. So what specifically do you do in your current role?
Oh man. So the job for the facilities engineer position, we are basically just keeping the hospital running at all times. So all of the heat, cooling, all of the water, we do everything from changing a light bulb to changing the cooling towers on the roof. So it's the complete maintenance of the entire hospital. So the only things that we don't mess with are like medical equipment. So of the machines, the IV machines and the poles and those types of things, we don't touch any medical equipment side, but anything facilities related. So if somebody's complaining that their thermostat's not working or their AC in their office is out, then we go in, we tear the room up, we end up having to fix those types of issues. So a lot of boiler maintenance. We've got 7 industrial sized boilers inside of our hospital. We've got 3 cooling towers, 3 chillers. And then we have hundreds and hundreds of VAVs, and as well as about 3 satellite buildings for our campus alone. So I work inside of the main hospital, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 satellite buildings that I have to monitor at all times as well.
Oh, really? So with it being such a small community, I wouldn't be aware that there was that, such a large network of healthcare facilities.
Yep. So Providence actually kind of holds the entire market down here. So we used to have 2 hospitals in Walla Walla. It was Providence, and then we had General Hospital, and Providence ended up buying General Hospital. So Providence itself owns all of the medical facilities in Walla Walla. So St. Mary's is taking up the town.
Well, and when you said General Hospital, I was just thinking like the actual soap opera.
They're right here in town.
Right? I'm like, that's where it's filmed.
Yeah, so we have to monitor all of those ones.
Okay. So, I mean, it's kind of neat to hear that, in 2023, you graduated in 2023, you did the program, out of our Lacey location. and then, relocated to Walla Walla. Just that whole, like, kind of that stepping stone to get you to where you are now, right?
Yeah. And it's so funny the way that it happened. Because my instructors were awesome while I was there, and they showed us all of the different types of jobs that you can have inside of HVAC itself. So when I started, obviously everybody's thinking that you're just going to go and jump into a residential HVAC thing. You're going to be going door to door and helping with their residential units and all that stuff. So that's what I had in mind when I had started. But I really didn't want to do I didn't want to be in people's homes anymore. I've done jobs similar to it in the past, and I didn't want to do residential. But I didn't know how somebody could start off doing anything like commercial or anything like that. And that's when they actually showed some slideshows and stuff of a chiller breakdown at a hospital for somebody who was a facilities engineer. So when I saw that position, because it's not just HVAC that I get to do anymore, or not just HVAC that I do, all of the electrical training that I learned, plus all the heat theory and the refrigeration, because I have to work on the refrigeration for our kitchen as well. So all of my schooling actually came into this one huge picture to be able to take care of an entire building as if it was an HVAC unit. So I thought in my head, I was like, I want to show up to the same job every single day and be able to work on bigger machines with the purpose of actually kind of like making that difference, especially in a town like Walla Walla when it gets so dusty and all the cottonwood trees and it gets to be 115 degrees. And in some of these older buildings that are just not insulated very well, your comfort levels just plummet. So I knew that I wanted to do something similar to that. So right after I graduated, I actually had an interview at St. Peter's in Olympia. For this position. Bombed the interview. I did not have enough.
You didn't say you were the bomb. You said you bombed it, right?
Yeah, I went in a couple months early. Like it was a couple months before we had even graduated. I didn't even have my EPA license yet or anything, but I was throwing all my feelers out there as much as I could. And the job that I wanted was at St. Peter's, and went in there and tried to do their troubleshooting test, and that was the best thing I could do. But when they handed me a written test about their equipment, woo boy. So I went back to the drawing board afterwards because I ended up interviewing for Providence, I believe, 3 separate times before I actually landed the position where I'm at currently, because I knew from the get-go I wanted to do facilities maintenance at a hospital. So it was a really cool moment where while I was doing my general maintenance at the foundry, I decided that I was going to actually step back from the general maintenance and just figure out how to get a job at the hospital to start with, and then kind of work my way in, figure out who's on the facilities team, if they might want an associate's degree, for the applied sciences of HVAC or anything like that. And I was like, and then I was ready to go. I was already getting my emails from Charter to get started. So I was like, right, I'll just cool again. So I started on their EVS team, which is their janitorial team, to clean up, and met a couple of people. But 2 months later, I set a 2-year plan to join the facilities team. But in 2 months, I had mentioned to one of the guys that I was EPA certified. I have my HVAC certification. And he goes, "What are you doing on the EVS team then?" He was like, "We have a position open now." And I was like, "Wait, really?" So I was able to put in my application for, again, it was the job that I had originally intended to kind of end up in. I don't want to say it's like a final career move in a lot of instances, but I do feel like I got to skip a couple of steps.
Yeah.
Because usually you start off at the residential side of everything, and you have to work there for a few years, and then you can try to work your way up into bigger equipment and stuff like that. But when I had my interview and I was talking to the guy, my lead, his name is Jeff Duquette. He became quite a huge mentor to me after I started up, but he was his own EPA certified self. Me and him were able to talk shop because he's a refrigeration guy like me. So it's not a requirement to have an HVAC certification for these types of positions, but usually you have to grandfather your way in after working on motors for 10 years or understanding boilers work, or any of the, or applicable fields. We have an electrician on our team. We have a plumber on. We've got locksmiths and everything.
Oh,
we all have to do the same job, but everybody kind of has their own specialties in the field. We all have to go and fix a door lock every now and again. Everybody has to. If the fridge is not starting, if the walk-in freezer's too hot, everybody has to go and look at the wiring if they're on. But it's really cool having all of these different trades come in. So again, I hung straw when it came to my interviewee with my lead, because he was the only HVAC guy that they had. So I was able to come on and kind of be his backup. So when I came on, he showed me all the different equipment, and we went through it. I got trial by fire. First week, we had some pretty huge leaks go on in our heating loop. So we were draining hundreds and hundreds of gallons of all of this heating fluid into barrels and wheeling them out while it takes a leak. And it was an interesting start to the job, but he was really holding my hand and helping me the entire way. So I've been able to kind of hold my own, and especially now because I'm on I work the nights. I'm a night shift engineer, so it's just me and one other guy on if he's not calling out sick or anything like that, because we always have to have an engineer on. So they trained me up pretty good for about 4 months, and then they were like, "Good luck." But it turned out good. I found out that a lot of the electrical work that, again, I was taught at school all came to fruition.
Good.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important, kind of looping back to what you're saying about your instructors, how they showed you, videos and informed you of all these different positions that an HVAC tech can do rather than just residential. I think that's very informative and very important, because I think oftentimes when, an individual goes into the HVAC program, their mindset is very tunnel vision, thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my program that, I can, earn my, my certificate in as little as 10 months. And then I'm going to go, work residential, instead of thinking like, oh, I could go work at, Reesers, or I could go work at a hospital, or I could go work at even a winery. I've heard of some of the gentlemen that graduate and they're working at wineries like in Prosser and Walla Walla, and because they have the refrigerations, and they have to keep certain temperatures for the wines and things like that. And so I was like, oh, I personally 15 years ago wouldn't have thought about that. And then I was like, oh, that makes complete sense, or the cold storage, for the foods and things like that.
Yep. That's where my mentor had come from. He was working inside of the cold storage foods areas and stuff. He was working for he worked for PepsiCo. He worked for a packaging company. So yeah, there's a whole lot of different routes you can go. And the one that interested me a lot too when I had first started, and again, it's crazy how it all became applicable. And again, my instructors, they were a couple of guys who had multiple ends of the spectrum, where one guy was an absolute controls nut. He knew all the controls for all the systems. And when I found out that was such a big deal in HVAC, and figuring out that these control systems are so complicated. And again, that's now a huge part of my job, but because I was taught a lot of that while I was in class, and then he actually gave me some stuff to go and research on my own at home, it all came to fruition all into one spot in this job. Every single thing that I was curious about, it was all there. So the controls alone, it makes me feel like an absolute computer whiz when I really don't have any technical skills, as my phone is cutting out all the time. But I get to hack into these SD boards and stuff, and it's just the brain for all of our air conditioning units and our VAVs, all of our fan coil units and stuff. These really crazy boards that are now finally starting to become a little simple to me, and it's all controls, and finding out that those are jobs that people do remotely. I was like, what? And making a lot of money doing it. And I was like, I need to pay attention to these controls while I'm here and see where I'm going to be. Man, I was hearing some crazy stories about guys working from home in Montana, making $120,000 over the summer just to fix this control board and send it back in for Johnson Controls. And I'm like, this is crazy. There's so many different things that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. So being there in the hospital, like what's your favorite thing to fix or, or install, in your opinion? Like what is your favorite thing to do? Because I know like every day is a different day. But what's something that you just really thoroughly enjoy doing?
I made the boiler room my baby. I love working on the boilers. And again, I got lucky that I shouldn't say lucky because it's not a good thing, but when I had started, we were having multiple boiler failures. So again, trial by fire, we were having to tear down both our steam and hydronic boilers. We were tearing them down, finding out that tubes needed to be replaced and insulation needed to be replaced inside, flame sensors going out, all sorts of different stuff. And I think the reason why I love them so much is because that was like my biggest worry going into the field and going into it. Had a lot of what's that called? Impersonation syndrome, or I think that's what it's called. But I had all this knowledge from school, but I never had that hands-on experience as much as I felt like I needed. So the boilers were a big, intimidating beast that I was scared I can blow this whole place up if I don't do it. And after, again, spending, I think it was really a solid 60 day week. We were in there. I had my hands were all bubbled up from all the insulation and fiberglass and stuff, and got a couple of burns on me because I wasn't watching where I was walking and touching. But by the end of it, I felt like I could tear down these boilers and put them back together by myself if I needed to. So now I get the calls all the time in the middle of the night because heat fluctuations and stuff going on right now. Our boilers sometimes don't know how to act, but I know how to mess with them now. So I get alarm talkie. We have some backup in there. Our PBX operators, they let us know if an alarm pops up on our system, and they're like, hey, we got an alarm on boiler 5, and I'll be across the street at one of our other satellite things, and I'll be like, I'll be right there. And get to run over, look at it. I know how to read all of its controls now and know, okay, well, it went out on its heat probably because of this thing. Go over here, fix that, boom, turn this fan on real quick, and now it's running perfect. So those things are they're very exciting. I like the boiler room a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what do you do, Shaq, when you're not working? What do you do for fun when you're not working?
Oh, man, I got that 9-year-old and that 7-year-old right now. Pokemon cards ready because we like to do our trading and stuff after schools. They call it Pokemon Club, but we do our little sports and stuff. Got soccer season coming up, but then I'll do disc golfing and snowboarding and let my imagination runs wild. I like to play some Dungeons and Dragons and play my video games with my friends and stuff like that still too. But yeah, wife and kids as often as I can get though, because with the night shift, it kind of messes with schedules a little bit. So whenever we have any wake, trying to get out of this house.
I bet. Yeah. Definitely. And right now, like it's gorgeous weather. This weekend though, it's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be so bad.
And I'm getting ready to head out to Reno, and I was like, I better look up the weather, and I was like, it's actually gonna be cooler. So I was like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah, that was a bit of a culture shift for me, going from Olympia where it's all mild weather most years, and then jumping over here into the desert with you guys. Holy, I did not know Washington get to 110 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then we have like the crazy winters where it can get, down to 10 degrees and then upwards of 110 degrees. And so, here you get all the seasons.
Yeah. And they hit immediately too. That was the one thing I've noticed about here is that they do not ease their way in. It does not go from 60 to 65 to 70 to 75 to 80. It goes from 45 degrees to 110 degrees. It's there's been a couple of years, I swear, we've had snow on the ground up until summer vacation hit. And then when summer vacation hit, just floods. Wild.
Yeah, so that means that you're in you're in the perfect industry, right? Because you need to keep people warm and you need to keep people cold.
Oh yeah, yeah. And keeping them cool is a heck of a lot harder than keeping them warm, man. It is. It really is. I have all of those work orders in there already. I was like, man, 'tis the season because we got loaded up. Fix this. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, question for you: would you be open to mentoring future HVAC students, or coming to, say, like the Pasco campus and being like a guest speaker? I mean, Lacey's a lot further than, from Walla Walla, but Pasco's a hop, skip. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those types of things are awesome to me. I would love to do something like that.
Awesome. And even bring in your kiddos if they wanted to come and just tour tour the campus and check it out. And currently they have a couple little guests on the campus right now for they have they're doing a kind of a mentorship, or I guess it's to increase how do I want to say this? Like student engagement with faculty and stuff. And so they have right now 2 pygmy goats on the campus right now.
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
they're adorable little girls. And I went to the campus yesterday just to they were doing a retirement party for one of the medical assisting instructors who's been with the organization for 15 years, and she's retiring. So I got to see the 2 pygmy goats, and they're just babies, and they're so cute. So
adorable. That's
yeah,
awesome.
that would be really neat for your kiddos. So there's always that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd be interested in that because I think that I mean, and again, I don't know how everybody does it, but again, when I had started, it took a few months for me to get in there and realize how many different paths there were and stuff. So being able to go in there and just kind of let them know, like, whatever you're thinking, about what you can do for HVAC, you have no idea, because the amount of skills that are translatable, because you have to learn everything from electrical to plumbing to refrigeration you get to choose so many different things, and there's a lot of options out there. And I was just, again, for like the first year, I felt like because I didn't get the St. Peter's job right away, then I ended up a little bit more narrow-minded about just trying to do residential. And in smaller towns and stuff like that, that's usually a family-owned business, so they're not hiring other people or anything like that. And then when they are hiring, it's usually just like a quick 6-month season to fix air conditioning units, and then it's on to the layoff season sometimes. So that's a bit intimidating and hard to get into the field with that type of fluctuation, but those are not the only types of jobs that are out there for it.
Right.
So
yeah. I think that's important to know. So with this, being said and everything, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you plan on staying with Providence? Like, do you want to be able to advance in your career? Like, where do you see yourself, Shaq, in 5 years?
So I've been playing with it. So I definitely, I could completely envision myself retiring from Providence. I really can. I can definitely see it because the job is always different. It's always fun. However, I am starting to take a look at some of these. Again, I told you, like, controllers, working on different controllers and stuff like that. And some of those jobs start turning into a little bit more of the science and technical aspects of it, which would expand my brain in a way that I've never had to expand it before. So right now, I'm kind of wanting to keep my nose to the grindstone and soak up all the knowledge I can from these guys that are going to be retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm going to take everything they know and make. But there's so many different routes that I have been finding. Just recently, I've learned about some other degrees that this turns into from here that can turn you into a civil engineer for your states and counties and stuff. Just right from where I am at currently, it's just a side step this way, so I don't have to start from any ground zeros or anything like that. So, and it would have a lot of the same knowledge, but building upon it. So Right now, it's more of a sky's the limit thing. Definitely don't plan on leaving Providence anytime soon because I've got a lot to learn there. But I have so many different avenues that I could possibly take now, and I'm finally seeing all of them.
I love
it's a
it.
lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that for you. Well, Shaq, I appreciate your time, and I'm gonna let you get back so you can do your Pokemon Club with your kiddos. And I know that they're
Just
excited for that, and they get to
knew
start
it was
summer. Hi.
that's the big one.
That's the big one.
That's the big.
That's awesome. I love it.
Just a minute, baby.
They're like, Pokemon, let's go.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for your time. And, we'll probably hit you up and, see about you coming in and being a guest speaker one of these days at the Pasco campus. I'd love to introduce you over to our lead instructor, Shannon, and our other instructor, Dwayne. I got to run into them yesterday while I was on the campus, and they're really neat guys. So they're always open to having people come and be guest speakers. So that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Yep. I would appreciate that. That's awesome.
All right. Well, yeah. All righty. Well, you take care and have a great summer with your kiddos.
I will. Thank you so much, Melinda.
Okay. Bye-bye.